Welcome back. This is the 6th part of the tutorial series where I go through my entire workflow from start to finish. If you missed any of the previous parts, I have them in a handy playlist in the description below. The last one was pretty long, but we finally finished retopologizing the entire character. In this video, we're going to take it a little bit easier and rig our base mesh. Now, if you're looking for an in-depth tutorial on rigging for animation, I'd suggest Dicko's rigging series, which is linked in the description below. The rigging we're looking to do is going to be quick and dirty. No weight painting, just placing bones so we can get our character sculpt into a pose. It'll also make creating the clothing just a little bit easier. Alright, so I have our base mesh that we've been working on here, and before we get started doing anything, we want to make sure that we have the rigify add-on enabled. Go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then type in Rig, and you'll see Rigify right here. Check that, and now when we Shift A, go down to Armature, we'll see extra rig types. We want the human meta rig. So let's click on that. It pops it in here on top of our character. Let's go over here to the object properties and scroll down and click in front. That way these bones are always in front. Tab into edit mode, and let's change our transformation to 3D cursor. We'll go 1 to get into the front view, and then we'll hit S to scale. We're going to bring it down to about where the face lines up. Now it isn't going to line up perfectly, but we just want to get it close. Now down here in the object data properties, looks like a little running man. Let's click on that, and then in viewport display, display as, let's click stick to make things a little bit easier to see. And if we scroll down just a little bit, you'll see upgrade face rig. Let's click on that. It updates our face rig. It just adds a few more bones. And last thing to set up, let's make sure that we click up here on X symmetry. That way anything we do on one side will be copied on the other side. Okay, let's select the hands and the arms, and we're just gonna hide these for now. Select those. You can select multiple by holding down Shift, and you can hide them by pressing H. Let's grab this collarbone. Let's bring it up a little bit. Select the end here, and we'll pull it in just a little bit. You can see our collarbone right here that we sculpted in. Follow along that. Let's grab this. This is our breastbones. We'll just put these over here on the boobs. Let's select all of these and hit GZ, and we'll bring these up. This is our pelvis. We want it to be right at the crotch, and then we can follow this little crease here that we created. Let's hit 3 into the side view. Let's grab this pelvis, and GY will move it up towards the center, and we can move this one on out. If we go into wireframe view, we can see our topology a little bit better. Let's grab where these bones connect together, and we want to box select in between. That way we grab both ends of the bone, the end of this bone here and the end of this bone here, because we want them to stay connected. Sometimes if they're not connected and they're supposed to be connected, then when you generate the rig, it'll give you some problems. So to avoid that, we'll just box select anything that's connected together. So let's pull this over towards the middle a little bit more, and let's grab this one, and we're gonna place it in the center right here, right across from the belly button. It's actually down a little further. We want that to be right in the belly button. We'll place this one on this loop here. Let's move this breastbone out, and this collarbone, we'll make it a little bit more narrow. This is the neck bone. We want to place this right at the base of the neck. We'll place this joint right in the middle of the neck. And we can take the top of the head bone and just stick it at the top of the head. For the leg, top of the leg bone, we'll place it up here around the center. And then here is the knee. We'll place it right at the knee. And then for the ankle, we'll place it right in the center here. We want this bended shape. If you accidentally have your shape too straight or backwards like this, then when you go to lift the leg, it'll bend backward like a dog leg. So we want to keep this bent forward. And it's okay if you end up having your bones stick out of the mesh like this. It'll still deform the way that you want it to. But let's keep this around the center. And we've still got a slight bend in there. Let's move this handle back, GY. We'll place it back here. This is going to control our foot roll. We can bring this back. We can actually bring this up. This is going to control the bend in the foot when this back of the foot rolls up. Let's go into front view. Alright, let's grab our knee. GX, and we'll bring it over to the center. And then down here at the foot, GX, and we'll line that up at the center. This is our ankle roll bone, only from the front view. We want to scale it to be as wide as the foot. Now I'm still on this 3D cursor pivot point, so let's put that back to bounding box center, and we'll scale it to make it as wide as the foot. And that, its width is going to control the roll from left to right. If you rotate it from left to right here, your foot's going to roll like this. Okay, let's bring the arms back, hit Alt-H to unhide everything. And I just want to see the arms for this, so let's hit Shift-H, and that will hide everything except for what's selected. And we'll hide this left half here too. So let's take this, we'll place it right above the armpit here, right in the center of the arm. Let's rotate it, get it close. And we want this elbow, let's turn on X-ray. We're going to place this right in the center of that elbow loop that we made. And then these, we'll place this over on the wrist. Press 7. We'll bring this closer to the center, GY. Just place it on the center of this this loop that's running down. Grab the elbow, and it's the same thing as the leg for the elbows. We want to make sure that it's bent just a little bit. Select all of this hand, GY, bring it forward. Okay. Now the hands are a little bit tricky. If you go and try to place them on their own, it's hard to keep them straight. Just try to line them up on your own like this. It looks straight, but a lot of the time when you go to use the handles to curl the fingers in to make a fist or something, your fingers are going to bend all over the damn place. So what I've found is the easiest way to do these fingers is, let's turn on, let's go back to X-ray again. Let's select everything here. Now this is selecting all of the fingers up to and including the end ball on the palm bones. Now what we're going to try to do here is straighten all these bones up. So with these selected, let's hit SX0, click to accept, and that has got them all straight going this way. And then we're going to have to do this one at a time. Let's select these, SY0, and then select the next finger, SY0, SY0, and then the last one. What that's done is it's zeroed them all out on the X and the Y axis. So now they're perfectly straight. Let's select all of the fingers. Let's go into front view and we'll rotate them out. And let's put them out here. Just try to get the same angle as the fingers. And then back in the top view, we're going to start placing them. So let's grab our pinky. We hit G. And we're looking to put it right on the knuckle, which is right around where this intersection is. So we'll put it just in front of it, and we'll do the same thing over here and over here and over here. Now let's select where these bones converge here. Let's change our pivot point to 3D cursor, and if we hold down Shift and press S, this brings up our radial menu for the 3D cursor. Let's click on cursor to selected. So now our cursor is there. If we select all of these fingers here, we can rotate them, and it'll rotate on that 3D cursor. And what we want to do is line it up to the middle of this loop right here, where this loop is going up the center here. And if we hit S to scale it, we want to bring this bone joint to this loop. And once you get it there, you can box select these two. You can hit S again to scale it, and it'll bring it up to the next. And then this last one, you want it to be at the tip of the finger. So let's do that again. We'll box select at the knuckle joint, Shift S, cursor to selected, and we'll select all of these. We'll rotate them, get them in the center, scale it up until the first bone is at the joint, right here. We'll select these ones, scale it up, and then for the very tip, we'll scale it up to the tip of the finger. Okay, there is our 4 fingers. They're stretched out and they're all straight. Let's go into the front view, and we see we've got a very straight, well, it is straight. We made sure that it's straight, but we've got a straight shot going going down like this. What we actually need is for these to curve like this. So we want our bones to come out like that. That way later on in pose mode, when we use the handles, they're going to curl around like this. If they're straight, then they might curl around backwards like this, like some broken fingers. And that is not what we want. So what we can do is in the top view, let's box select these knuckles. Let's go into front view. We can hit GZ to bring them down just a little bit. Let's get the next joints here. Actually, let's just get the fingertips. On the front view, we'll hit GZ and bring these down. Probably bring them back in a little bit. GX. So now we've got an arc that's running down, and that'll make sure that our fingers bend. Okay, let's set our pivot point back to bounding box center. Let's grab the back of these palm bones and hit S, and it'll scale them out. Okay. Now let's grab all of our thumb bone. We'll rotate it around, and we'll bring it to the very tip over here. We're going to line up the joints of this bone right in our edge loops. So grab the little circles, place them in the intersection of the edge loop. We'll just follow this loop around, and then we'll place this last one right here. So that's good for the top view. If we rotate around, you can see that we're not actually in it too great. So we can select them, GZ, bring it in, bring it about to the center. Let's rotate around some more. I think that'll work. Let's bring this in just a little bit. Okay, one last thing. We've got it on stick. If we turn it back over to these octahedrals, we may have messed up the bone roll. And what the bone roll is the way that these bones are facing. So we can change the roll right here. And when you move them around, the bones will roll. So a good way to fix this is we can select all of our finger bones right here. We'll hit armature, go to bone roll, recalculate roll, and then we'll click on global minus Z axis. And that's going to make all of these bones face straight up. And for the thumb, let's select all of these. We're going to go armature, bone roll, recalculate roll, global plus Y axis is what we're going to go with. That's going to make sure that they all point that way. That should be the hand finished. Now let's hit Alt H to bring everything back. And now we're just going to focus on this head. Let's take the tip of this, let's move it back out of the way a little bit. Okay, let's select the head bone, and these bones, these, and everything else. Let's hit H, so we can hide everything but the face bones. Let's put this back into stick view so we can see a little bit easier. If you go down here to the bone properties, and then whenever you click a bone, it'll tell you the name of the bone. Like this bone is the teeth bone. We don't want to use it right now. Let's hit H to hide it. This one is the bottom teeth. These are the tongue bones. Let's hide these. Let's go into front view. And just so we don't accidentally get into these other bones, let's select half of everything. Hit H to hide it. And then you'll have to manually click on some of these that go into the center. There we go. Okay, let's go and turn snapping on. We want to make sure that it's on face project and project individual elements. Let's go to the ear. We'll bring this guy over to the tip. We'll bring him down here. This one goes around the corner here. We'll bring this one down to the earlobe, and then this one over here where the ear meets the head. This is going to give us a little bit of control on our ear if we need to pose it, get around some hair or something like that. So these aren't super important, just as long as you outline the ear. Once we get that, let's box select all of those, H to hide it, to get it out of the way. Press 3 to go on the side. This is our temple bone. Select it, and we'll put it right around here, about center between the eye and the ear. Let's grab this one. This is our top of our jawbone. In the side view, we're going to place it right around the bottom of the ear here. And we're going to grab this. This is another part of the jawbone. We're going to place it down here near the bottom of the jaw. And this one is a part of the chin bone. We'll put it down at the end. Now let's take snapping off. We're going to place this chin bone right at the tip of the chin, right there. And this goes underneath the mouth. And on this long one that comes up like this is our jaw controller. When we want to open and close the jaw, this is where it's going to hinge from. So let's take this and we'll place it around the ear. So now when the mouth opens, this point right here is going to be the hinge. So if you want your hinge to be somewhere else, you can have it down here, up here. Yeah, if you got a weird character, I mean, you can place it anywhere. This is for the upper chin. We'll place it right here. This is for right underneath the lips. Put it right here. This is the corner of the mouth. Place it right on the corner. These are the two bottom lip controllers. We'll just place it over here. These are the top lip controllers. We'll place these over towards the lips. We'll work those out in a second. This bone goes between the lip and the nose. Box select these. These go right at the base of the nose. This one and this one are for the tip of the nose. Bring those over and in. And this one goes where the nose starts to bend in. And then this is the main nose controller. You can scale it down and have it shooting right out of the tip of the nose. Okay, let's go into front view. Turn your snapping back on. Let's grab this bone group right here. This is supposed to snap right on the edge of your nose. Let's place the corner of the mouth into the corner of the mouth. These are your lip bones. You can place them on the lips. And since we've got this jawbone sticking up the middle, when you go to box select something in the middle, you're going to accidentally select that jawbone. So to get that out of the way, let's go down here. We'll grab where these three bones come together. Go into front view, and we'll rotate the camera down a little bit. And you can do this with the 8 and the 2 key. 8 will rotate up, 2 will rotate down, and then you can toggle on orthographic or perspective with 5. But if we press 5 and then hit G and then click to snap it, now let's click the jawbone and hit H to hide it, and we won't worry about selecting it anymore. Let's get this middle lip bone, GZ, we'll bring it to the center. We'll bring this one up. Wherever you want these controllers to be is where these will go. So I want mine to split it just about like that. Select these bones here, and we'll just snap it onto the surface. G and then click. Okay, this bone will control the cheek, and when your mouth deforms, it's going to help stretch this loop right here. So we want it to be somewhere around the center of the face, or the center of the cheek, something like this. And then this cheekbone needs to be somewhere around there. You can bring this way down, something like that. And then these cheekbones come out here. Let's move on up here to the top where the eyebrows are. Select this one, place it up here. We're just going to split the difference between this loop and this loop. We'll do the same with this one and with this one. And these bones, they control the forehead, so whenever you move the brow bones, these forehead bones will move too. It gets a little bit annoying because when you bring the brow down, the forehead pops out. One way to kind of counteract this is to place these really high up into the hairline. And let's bring this up a little bit, GZ. We'll bring it around here. Okay, so that's the upper brow. This is the bottom brow. Let's select this and we'll bring it over here to the corner. And this is actually our crease that we put in, and we're gonna match that crease with this brow. So it's gonna go along that loop. If we go back into wireframe, we can just copy this same loop, just place it right on the loop. And then we have the eyes. We want the corner of the eye to be right here. We want this corner to be over here. And then the bottom will go right on the bottom, right split between them. And the top will go up here. And then these, you just split the difference. Like that. Now for the eye bone, let's tab out of edit mode, select our eyeball, tab into edit mode. We'll hit A to select all, Shift S and then cursor to selected. And that's going to place it right in the center of the eyeball. Let's tab out. Let's go back into our armature. Back into edit mode. Let's hit 3 to go into side view. We're going to grab the bone and then Shift S, selection to cursor. It places the back of the bone right on the cursor, which happens to be the center of our sphere. Let's grab the very end of this bone and then GY. We're going to want to bring it to the very end of the iris here. That's going to control these eyelid bones here. When they close or open, it's going to use this as the pivot point, and it's going to arc around the eyeball. So that should be everything. If we hit Alt H to unhide everything, let's look over everything one more time. Alright, we got breastbones that we've got to set up. Let's select one of these breastbones. Let's rotate it. That way it's sticking out the same way as the breasts are pointing. Put it about the end right here on this second loop, and we could probably bring this in a little bit. Okay, now that should be it. Oh, I had snapping on. Let's go scale Z0. Go into front view. Hit GZ to bring it down, and we'll hit 7. It looks like it's going to be okay. Last thing, we've got to set up our teeth and our tongue. Let's go into X-ray mode. That way we can see the inside of the mouth. Click this top bone here. That's for the teeth. We hit G. We'll bring it in. We'll rotate it. And just kind of get it matched up with top set of teeth. Make sure that snapping isn't on either. The bottom one, bring it in and rotate it. Just get it pretty close. And now let's select these tongue bones. Let's bring them inside the mouth. We want to place it right behind the teeth where the tongue is. And we'll just follow the tongue in. Don't worry about placing it all the way down to the base, because that doesn't need to move anyways. Okay, with that finished, let's get out of X-ray mode, out of edit mode, click on the armature, click generate rig, and there is our rig. Let's click our meta rig that we've been editing. Let's just hit H to hide it. We don't want to delete it, but we want to hide it. Let's click our base mesh and then shift click our rig, Control P. That brings up our parent menu. And down here under armature deform, let's click with automatic weights and then give it a second. Once it's finished, click off, and then you can click on the armature. You can tab into pose mode, and you can see that our armature deforms. And if things look a little weird, you want to make sure that our base mesh has the armature set above the subdivision. And we're not doing any weight painting, so that means that you're gonna have weird things like the wrist pinching down like that, or when you lift the leg, you're gonna have a weird deformation like this. But that's things we're gonna take care of once we get the character into pose, and we'll sculpt all that out. To reset a pose, you can select all the controllers by pressing A and then holding down Alt, G, and then R, and then S. Holding down Alt and then pressing G resets the moves. Holding down Alt and pressing R resets the rotation. Holding down Alt and S resets the scale. Just go around grabbing handles, test everything out, make sure that the character deforms and nothing is being goofy. So it looks like everything's moving okay, except if you move the head away, you see that the teeth and the eyes aren't coming along with us. So let's tab out of pose mode and let's hide the base mesh. Let's go into side view. So let's click the top teeth, and then we'll shift click any of these handles here of the armature. We'll tab into pose mode. Let's turn on X-ray so we can see. And you can see a green box here. That's our top teeth. Let's click on that and hit Control P, and let's just click on bone. We'll do the same thing with the bottom teeth. We'll click on the teeth, click on the armature, tab into pose mode, click on the bottom teeth bone, Control P, bone. Now when we go into pose mode and we move the bones, our teeth move along with it. And if you grab the jawbone, you see that the bottom teeth moves with the bottom jaw. Now for the tongue, we'll have to click the tongue, shift click the armature, and then Control P, and then with automatic weights. So now when we go into pose mode, Let's move the top teeth out of the way and the bottom teeth out of the way so we can see these controllers. So we got a tongue controller here. Let's just move it out. And then we got these other controllers that helps us deform it. And it looks a little goofy. We need to make sure that we have on the tongue the armature above the subdivision. Now let's go back into pose mode. And we can deform the tongue. Now we can unhide the body. If you see over here, since we parented it to the rig, it's going to be underneath the rig, so hit this arrow to pull it open. And if you scroll down, you'll see our base mesh here hidden. Let's click it to unhide it. One last thing, we've got our eye controller here, but our eyes don't follow. They're not parented to the head at all. So if we move this, the eyes still aren't moving with us. So let's tab into object mode. We'll select the eyes. We'll select the armature. We'll hit Control P and we'll go with automatic weights. Now when we go into the armature and we move the eye controller around, you'll see that our eyes follow, but they're acting a little goofy. You see how there's a little pinch in the iris there? And once it gets to the edges, it starts to pinch, and that is not what we want. So we can fix this by going back into object mode. Let's click on our eyes, and then down here, this little triangle here is the object data properties for the eyes, and then you'll see here all the vertex groups that has to do with the eyes. So let's click this little arrow here. This pulls down a search box. Let's type in eye, E-Y-E, and what we're looking for is def-I. With the eye selected, let's go into weight paint mode. When we click on some of these vertex groups, you can see the weights that are painted to them. And what we want is def-IL. With this vertex group selected, let's tab into edit mode. Hit A to make sure that everything is selected and that the weight is all the way up. Hit assign, and then let's tab back into weight paint mode. And you see the eye is completely red, which means that this vertex group has 100%, or this bone that controls this vertex group has 100% of the influence. Now it still isn't going to fix it though, because there's other vertex groups that also have this influence too. Now for the eye, we only need this one vertex group, IL, but we also need IR for this side. So let's lock this one. Down here is IR. Let's lock this one, and then underneath this arrow, let's click it and hit delete all unlocked groups. So if we click it, we see that we've only got these two vertex groups. And when we tab back out into object mode, that way we can grab our handle into pose mode. When we move this around, our eyes aren't acting all goofy anymore. So that's good. Now that we've got the rig finished, let's hit Control S. We'll save this. And actually, what you should probably do is save this as a new file as well. Save as, and we'll call this base mesh. And we'll just tuck this away, and whenever you want to start a new sculpt, you can actually start with this. This kind of eliminates everything that we've done before. It will help you get a little head start on your next sculpt too, even if this isn't the right shape for you. If you need a character that is a little bit more petite, that'd be easy to do. You just start grabbing some of the handles and you can scale on them to change the body shape. And if the handles aren't enough, you can add a multi-res modifier and sculpt the character into place to the shape that you want. Or if you don't want to shrink the frame down and you want more of a voluptuous character, it's the same idea. Just take the handles, scale them up, get things to the shape that you want. If you need to change anything, pull it into multi-res. Or even if you wanted to do like an evil villain character, it's the same thing. What I'm trying to say is this is a base mesh that you have created, and you can use this in your future projects. It's already got pretty good topology good enough to sculpt on, and besides having it on your base mesh to size everything up, even if this wasn't a base mesh, I would have rigged it first, because this is also going to help us with creating clothing later on. you see anything that we create from this base mesh. Let's say I'm trying to make a pair of pants. If I select these verts and I duplicate them, Shift D, and then I separate them, they're going to become their own mesh. Let me add a solidify on here so we can see it a little bit better. You can see that they are their own mesh, but since they were duplicated from our base mesh, which has vertex groups that are parented to this armature, it copies all of the vertex groups and the modifiers. So we see that it does have an armature, the subdivision. So that means whenever we go into pose mode, and if we want to raise this leg up, then these pants that we created for the character, they're going to move along with the armature because they're already weighted to the armature. So that's going to save us time later, so we don't have to individually parent everything to the armature. So yeah, that's the quick and dirty rigging for our 3D sculpt. If you had any trouble along the way in the previous videos up until now, something that just wasn't clicking right or something, but you'd still like to follow along in the future videos that are coming up, this space mesh is available for free on my Gumroad. There is a link in the description to this particular file. If you don't want to use your own file moving along, you can use my file. And in case it wasn't obvious, I do have a little roadmap schedule thing that is in the description that says what we're going to be working on next. Next up is the hair, and then the video after that will be clothing and accessories, and then after that we're going to do materials, and then the final video is going to be lights, and then animating a turnaround for the character. Next time we're going to be working on the hair, everything from the neck up, and I hope to see you there. See you guys next time. Alright, bye.